Welcome, everyone. My name is Ebony Edwards, and welcome to Voice and Vision webinar series. I would like to start with giving you an overview of what we do at Voice and Vision. We bring help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities affected by mental illness, addictions, and disabilities in Southeastern PA. For more information, please visit our website at www.voiceandvision.org. I've also included it in our chat area, but at this time we kind of disabled it. So if you have any questions, please ask your questions in our Q&A area, and we will also answer at that time. And good morning again, and welcome to Truth Be Told. So I would like to welcome all of our attendees and participants. And I am the marketing director with Voice and Vision, and I will be leading this conversation today. Before I introduce our speakers, I would love to introduce you to our founder of Voice and Vision, Valerie Melroy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy that you came to join us today on this December 30th to celebrate the Outreach and Education and the HEAL program at Voice and Vision. We are so grateful that you're here and spending time with us. We are, for I guess about 5 years now, we've been outreaching to people who are Black and African American about mental health addictions through a grant given to us by Chester County Department of Human Services. So we're very grateful to be able to bring you another webinar, and I'm so excited to always talk about recovery and always hear about recovery, and I'm excited about our guests. So thank you for joining. Have a very safe, healthy, and prosperous 2021. If Voice and Vision can do anything for you, please give us a call or reach out to us through email. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. At this time, it's with great pleasure that I introduce our panelists. Today, I would like to welcome Khali Younger, registered nurse and mental health advocate. Reverend Ben Nelson, outreach and education leader at Voice and Vision INC. And Werts, a community advocate. Before we begin the conversation, I would like to add that this session will be recorded. I will also ask a series of questions to our speakers. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please add it in our Q&A area. And please, feel free to just use our chat area if you need to as well. Please add your first name and your question. If not, just add your question. I will also then circle back to refer to your question during the discussion. Is everyone ready to start? At this time, I would like to introduce you all to Truth Be Told, our first panelist, Khali Younger. Hi, Khali, good morning.
Good morning, Ed. How are you?
How are you? I mean, you were at our conference a couple of weeks ago. Everyone enjoyed you, and this is an extension, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to bring you back on. A lot of people love your story. They want to learn more. And what is your truth?
It's been,
tell the audience.
First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to you guys. It's been amazing sharing my story. It's also been therapeutic, I must add. So my truth is I'm a returning citizen from Graterford Prison many years ago, 2008 to be specific. Since then, I went on to graduate nursing school, become a pediatric psychiatric nurse, as well as move on to grad school and study healthcare administration and trying to bring resources now that I didn't have while I was going through my mental health crisis and before I went into my default mental health institution, which was the prison. So I'm trying to bring those resources back to our community and ensure that everyone gets the fair treatment that they deserve. As I won't say I didn't get fair treatment, but I certainly, it was an unempathetic institution, so.
Wow. So your truth, it started back, you said 2000.
So it started back, so if I could touch on that, it started back long before that, my truth. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I like, I know one of your questions would be one of the quotes that I live by, but I think it's appropriate to start with this here. I read a book by Glennon Doyle, I believe it was, Untamed. And in the quote, she says that it's not the cruel criticisms from people that hate us that shakes us from our knowing. It's the quiet concern of those who love us, right? And so growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, my mother's concern, obviously as an African-American woman raising an African-American child, was her fear of what could possibly happen to me, right? And so my truth is I was buried underneath the character of my family as well as my community well before I reached the society that incarcerated me. So one of the things that I really like to touch on during this time is the fear that I was living under. That was the truth, right? It was so much fear. As a Jehovah's Witness, I was taught that the end of the system was coming, the end of the world was coming, and so I prepared that way. It made me who I am today as well, to be able to evangelize and speak with you guys. But it also sort of like set on top of me, and I worried and I was concerned about the end of the world, and I didn't build any other skills along the way to ensure that I would be okay. Even during that time, during those times, Jehovah's Witnesses, they didn't say not to go to college, but they strongly discouraged going to college. And so I saw myself as just becoming someone who was going to evangelize and bring God's kingdom through speaking. And so I prepared for that. And the reality was, once I sort of broke away from that, one of the things that happened to me is that I was disfellowshipped, and my total support system was removed from me, right? So at that particular time, I had a mother who sort of felt embarrassed and needed to withdraw herself from me in order to save herself. And then I had community members or religious members who also moved away from me. So it left me to be very isolated, right? And I didn't have those skills in order to go out and then start speaking and talking with people in a manner that was helpful or to move myself forward. And so that fear drove me most of my life. And then moving into the years where I started to sell drugs, started to be out in the community a little bit more, then I got caught under the expectations of the community, right? There were only a few things that I could actually be or expected to be. One of those things was certainly not to be a man who spoke about his troubles or his mental health issues or had anyone to just cry with. And so I became this rigid, hardened individual who believed he needed to live that way. And it wasn't until going to prison and being totally stripped of that ego that I realized that this was something that was a psychosis, so to speak. And I had been living under it for years. And so I had to do the digging back to who I was before my mother put her expectations and my religious community put their expectations, as well as society or my community put their expectations on me. And so that's where I am now, trying to live my truth through speaking to people and letting them know, making them aware that sometimes we live under other people's expectations and what they have for our lives. And it's important for us to find our voice and find our vision in order to really live a whole happy life. And so that's the work that I'm set to do now, like trying to help men find themselves or discover who they are outside of the expectations of society.
Thank you for that. You talk about expectations, right? And, tell our viewers, the audience, did you expect that you would be going to prison at an early age or as a young man? And how did that, transform you to enter in a system realizing that there may be some mental health challenges or issues going on, and I don't even want to say the word issues, but you started identifying certain things and you want to change. Because I love your story, and I can't wait for us to really jump in of where you are today. So expectations.
Yeah, so the expectation, so it's funny, going to prison really helped me see the psychosis, right? Because once I got into prison, and went into prison, and I was definitely afraid. But once I got there, I realized that all the men that were around me was afraid too, right? Like they were afraid and they were living lives that weren't really them. I got to see some of the best souls, if you could imagine, that I've ever seen. And I got to really be intimate and talk to these men and see where they were. And I discovered that we were all living someone else's truth, right? And what the streets expected of us. And some of that I must add, today what frustrates me is I see a lot of people playing on the fence. We call them straddling the fence. And these are the people within our community who give back coats, drives, and they give out turkeys. But at the same time, they're setting up systems and cultures that make us or cause us to have the expectations that these are the only things that we could be, right? And so expectations, is going back on expectations, I discovered in jail that we as I said, we were living a lie, and we were expected to be these tough, hardened people. Even our parents, I know growing up with family members, my mother, I was taught not to cry, right? I was expected not to cry. I was expected not to let anybody take my stuff outside. I was expected to go handle myself physically. I wasn't expected to speak things out. I wasn't expected to talk through big emotions. And so it's really tough because a lot of it, I know, listen, historical structural racism is very real. However, I feel like I was underneath a lot of stuff way before I reached society. And then once I got those expectations, and those expectations drove me to my behaviors, then the rest of society was just totally unempathetic. And it was sort of the default system became, or the default mental health institution became the prison system. And that's where we are today.
I just want to let and just make note to our attendees. This is Khali Younger once again. He's a mental health advocate, and he's also a registered nurse. But if you have any questions for him, you can ask them in our question Q&A area. And for each panelist, that's our schedule for today. You can also just put it in our Q&A area. Khali, the truth to be told. I have a 23-year-old son, right? And God forbid anything ever happens to him. And I think a lot of the audience members, or even me, I have questions. Is there a truth in the system, when you're in the system? Is there really a lot of advocacy going on? You know, who do you go to in terms of, you know, what programs are offered in prison systems to help you to develop a sense of a new world, you know, when you get out, you know, the pipeline to prison system, what happens in there? Tell us what happens while you're in, you know, the system, and, you know, the expectations that you're looking for to even get out. You know, let us know what really goes down in there, because a lot of people have answers. You know, someone's child gets locked up today or tomorrow, you know, it's very scary. So what happens is that does it really affect your mental immediately?
Yeah, so it's you know, interesting that 23 years old was the time I went to prison. Mm-hmm. And during that time, it was a lot of things. It's funny. It was a lot of things going on with me at that particular time. Like I said, I was a Jehovah's Witness for most of my life. So I came out of high school and I didn't really know exactly what it is I was going to do with the rest of my life. I'd seen uncles around me, live with girlfriends. I've seen some successful uncles. I've had one very successful uncle who shared a lot of time with me. But the things that he was doing was not necessarily the things that I wanted to do, right? And he had his expectations for me. And once I finished high school, there was the pressure that was on me. There was no outlets, right? There was nothing to help support me to move into adulthood, and really start to fix all those things that I either wasn't taught by parents, or I had to dig my way out of some of the bad things that I was taught. But once I crossed over into that world of reaching the criminal justice system, I would like to say that it became, I think we like to say that, you know, the criminal justice system is just heartless, and we use it as this thing as if it's them, not us, right? And I must say and be honest, a lot of the treatment and the lack of empathy came from my very own community, right? And again, yes, it was nothing around. And then moving into prison, I remember being on the bus on my way to Graterford and just looking out like, man, I'm on my way to prison, and I don't think I was ever expecting this. Like it was actually my first crime that I committed. So it wasn't like it was a step to, hey, listen, this is what you need not to do, and consequences for that. Here you are, and I don't. For my crime, I don't expect that there were certainly victims, and I take the victims very serious. But it's certainly, I was also a victim of society, right? And bad parenting, and it was absolutely no empathy. Matter of fact, family moved away, parents moved away. I don't think I spoke to my father for the first 3 years of my prison sentence because he was so embarrassed. And so it's funny when you go through these psychoses, it becomes the way people treat you actually sends you into this deeper psychosis, right? Like they treat you as if you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I need somebody to listen to me. But to answer your question further, once I got into prison, was there programs to help men? Absolutely not. Most of our prisons are in rural farm towns, old steel towns, where it's an incentive to have these into the economy, or these prison systems into their economy. And the people are not really interested. And so most of actually, no, not most, all of them, when it was on my unit, I ran the, I forget the what it was, but it was a program to help us with our anger management. I actually ran an anger management programs once I got there. From my experience of being a Jehovah's Witness and realizing where I was, I went to my unit counselor at the time and asked if I could run the anger management, and that's what he allowed me to do. I don't know if I was qualified really to run anger management. I was reading off papers. I knew what I felt inside. I knew I needed help, and I knew these men needed help. And so that's what I did. But I didn't have any guidance to support us. It was more like check the box. You know, you have to go through anger management. So here you are, run the program. You know, we'll say you did anger management and go on. However, while I was there, I did run into a program to clean floors.
Wow.
And so I took a year-long program sponsored by the state to strip, wax, do all sort of floors. And I did that for a year. And in my mind, I was thinking, man, how can I kill off some of this time? And so I took that program, graduated with the year-long program. I will say using that program did help me get my first job in the hospital, knowing how to do floors. So that was helpful. I did take that. Later on, there were other programs such as, like, I know Villanova would come in and volunteer to speak and do certain classes when I got to Graterford. And what I can say, it was really, there was some, you would have to dig through it, but there was no real rehabilitation, so to speak.
And that's why we have, Voice and Vision and other agencies that, we're really out here working to assist in these programs and getting it out, the word out there. And that's great to know because there's a lot of work to be done, it's a lot.
Yes.
The motivation, Khali, for you when you got out of prison and, you talked about it at the conference, you were on a bus, you looked at your trans pass, you were like, no, this is not my life. And, tell people, since you're in a health field now, how did that experience from one to another? Like you went from one, extremity, like you were here and then it's like now you're at the hospital. You talked about working at the lowest level, but you did not want that. You didn't see that. So I love that, for you were motivated to have a future. Can you talk about, from transitioning from prison to that time you was on the bus, you looked at your trans pass. Did you have children at that time or family? Like what happened?
So before I went into prison, I had a newborn who was 2 years old.
Okay.
She was 2 years old. No, excuse me. I actually went into prison while she was being born. I was in prison. She was born prematurely. And then that was it. I didn't see her again until way later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to transition out of prison, the first thing that I did, I came home and I sort of isolated myself. I remember going up to Peddler's Village.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that place.
Yeah. And the first time I came home, and I had a girlfriend at the time, she took me there, and I just remember coming home and being in a panic. Like, all these people must know I'm home from prison. They must know that I'm here to rob the place. Like, it was just like this psychosis of I was in this world, and it's like no one prepared me for what was going to happen, or just going from this confined space to the world, right? No one really prepared me for that. And I remember looking at her in anger, which was fear, and being like, why would you bring me here, right? Like, why would you bring me here? And so it wasn't an easy transition. For most of my first year home, I spent doing odd end jobs. It wasn't really any job that I could find. And then, to be honest with you, I was so on my way and so in despair after the first year that I was just ready to, I really was ready to head back to the streets. I never forget, I was standing by a tree on my mother's block. And I'm just like, you know what? Screw this. There's nothing else for me. Like, what can I do? And I remember getting the phone call from Abington Hospital, Environmental Service Department, like that next day, like, come in, have an interview. And I went into the interview and I'm prepared for the interview and I just break down and start crying. And they're like, what's going on? And I'm like, listen, this could save my life. And I gave him the story and told him the story. I was very transparent and, not knowing that, the person that was sitting there, was advocating for this. And he was just like, took me on board and gave me the first environmental job position. And like I said, at Voice and Vision, when I got to environmental service, I was very happy to be working. They couldn't give me enough hours and they couldn't stop me from working. Like, that was all I wanted to do. But I would look at my checks at the end of 60-hour weeks and I was just like, I can't get a car in an apartment, right? And I can't take care of a family. I'll never be able to build a family with this. And so I thought to myself, like, it has to be a way to continue to move forward. I have to do something, right? Because what I expect from my life is not this. I expect much more. I expect a family. I expect to be a value contributor to my community. So that was the expectations that I had for myself. And once I saw that in the checks, I was like, no way, I can't, this can't be what I'm going to do.
Wow. Thank you for that, Khali. any wonderful wishful words or inspiration that you can send to our audience, that you can share your inspiration, or just leave us with some type of great quote before you leave today?
Yeah. So the quote that I gave you earlier, I think I love this quote by Glennon Doyle, because it's so important to realize. And I think it's not only for the individuals who are going through it, but the family members who are supporting individuals who have mental health issues, right? Like, it's so important to understand that it sometimes isn't the outside world that troubles us, right? It's the quiet concern of those who say they love us, right? Who have their expectations, who have everything, their embarrassments, their fears, that they haven't dealt with, right? And then they throw that on you. I think it's so important for people to find, as Valerie has done through this organization and advocating through this excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought. That she moves this voice, and finding a vision is so important. And I think for people to really dig in and find out who you were before the world threw their expectations on you, right? Like, find out who you were and who you were supposed to be. Because I'm just discovering who I'm supposed to be and my purpose in life. And it had nothing to do with my mother thinking I was going to be a Jehovah's Witness, or my community thinking I was going to be a football player, and, then society thinking I'm be a felon and an African American who can't make anything of his life. Discover who you are, right? Like, strip away the ego and dig in there and find out what exactly, motivates you and makes you the best of who you are.
And, before you leave, I love that you touched on when you came out, you went to Pepper's Village with your friend, and you thought everyone was staring at you. I mean, when I fall down and I get back up just from a fall, you're like, oh God, everybody's laughing, they're watching me. I mean, I can only imagine how you felt, thinking that someone knows your story, and they really didn't. They don't know. It's you. And that's another topic of discussion, just the visual of everyone watching you, and you need support to know that you're just together. You're just on an enjoyable evening or day, celebration with your friend. But I like that. And, I think that someone would love to learn more about that side as well. Michael Harper Esquire, that works for Voice of Vision, I know he would love to talk about that, because that's something that, a lot of people, they think people know their story. Correct. And this is why, truth be told, about who you are is a great discovery today. So thank you for your time, Khali. We have so much more to do with you with Voice of Vision. And I'm sure Valerie will be in touch with you for the future bigger events. And, if anyone has any questions for Khali, let's see, I do have a question. I have one of the audience members asks, where do you discover your true self or value?
So that's a great question. Where did I discover myself and my true value? In all of this discussion, I didn't honestly discover my truth until I was married, right? And I didn't understand my value until I got married. It was way later that I started to discover like who I could be. And for those who have been married, they'll know a marriage will strip away your ego, right? So like that Peddler's Village, now that I realize that was my ego. That was the way I wanted to be seen by the world. I wanted to be seen as this put together person who never did a crime, never did anything, but I wasn't that person, right? But it didn't make me less than, right? But at that particular time, I didn't have values. And so later on, as I just started to discover and going through organizations and working in hospitals, I realized organizations have values that guide the direction and goals that they set, right? And so I had none. And so I had to just start to discover that through my marriage. Like, how do I want to respond to an argument or a disagreement, right? So I set up values for myself to say, listen, I want to be compassionate. I want to be transparent. I want to be vulnerable. I want to be honest. And I want to be curious, right? I don't want to just be, in my own head and thinking I'm always right. I want to be curious about what other people believe and what they've been through and their experience and how I can learn from those things. So that was a self-discovery along the way. And for me, if I'm being honest, it wasn't professional help that did that. It was marriage. It was trying to evolve into a better person. And much of that, I will give credit back to the Kingdom Hall and Jehovah's Witnesses. That was my history of studying the Word of God. And when I was in jail, one of the first things that I did was read the Bible twice over, just to give myself a perspective. I was always told verse by verse what each verse meant, and never really had the context. And so it was important for me to study and to see what God's values were. What are the overarching or universal values that are there that we can all agree on? And like some of those things, transparency, vulnerability, honesty, and compassion and curiosity. And the theme kept coming over and over again throughout the Bible. And so those are the things that I use to propel me towards my goals. And so far, I can't even tell you, it's been amazing from using those values and trying to guide my life in the right direction. I think having values is uber important if you're setting goals to where you want to go. And it can't be the values that's given through our community, right? Like right now, I'm seeing a lot of this, what I call purposeless transactional entrepreneurship, right? It's like no true values at all, not trying to build community. It's just transactional. And money, of course, was always one of those core values that I've discovered is man-made and has no actual value at all. It won't raise a child. It won't make a child healthy. It won't make a wife happy. So ultimately, yeah, finding those values that weren't put on me again. And that was just a self-discovery, really, through marriage and my wife. I give credit to my wife.
Thanks. All right, thank you guys. You just heard from Khali Younger himself. Khali, can you share with the audience how they can find you or follow you on social media?
Yes, I'm on Khali Younger on Facebook, on Instagram for Every Young Personal Care. And my email, you can reach me at kyounger@fypchealth.com on all three platforms. I answer any questions, help with any questions around children or problems with the criminal justice system, mentoring young men and helping them with these big emotions that they have and how do we get through some of that stuff. So I'm open to take any questions and help in any kind of way I can.
Thank you so much, Khali. You heard it first from Khali Younger, and up next, we have Reverend Benjamin Nelson, Outreach and Education Leader for Voice and Vision INC. Hi, Reverend Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Nice.
I'm so glad to be here this morning.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, attendees, we have Reverend Benjamin Nelson, who is Outreach and Education Leader at Voice and Vision. So this is all about the truth to be told. Truths be told, Reverend Ben. And, everyone has a story. And, what led you to, everything that your story has to tell, in terms of, drug use and, where you came from and from your community. Let them know who you are and, what led you to certain circumstances.
I sure will. That's what I tend to do. My name is Reverend Benjamin Nelson. I have a degree in biblical science associates. I have a bachelor's in human services, and I'm in grad school now getting my master's degree. And I am the assistant pastor of Philadelphia, one of the assistant pastors of Philadelphia Baptist Church. And I'm also the outreach coordinator of the Philadelphia Baptist Church. And through our efforts, we feed hundreds of families in the city of Philadelphia every month. So I'm glad to do that. And being that person, a lot of people see me, and when I tell them a little bit, when I give them disclosure about myself, they often say, "Wow," they said, "I never thought you were. Look at you. I never thought you would have been that type of person." So then I have to tell them. I say, "Well, you know, truth be told, I went through some stuff, and I'm gonna tell you all a little bit about my story right now. I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia, in the Cobbs Creek area. I grew up. There's a predominantly a black neighborhood, middle class, you know, but there was always the streets, and that's where I was driven to, the streets. I wanted to be like my big brother, and I wanted to be like the guys that in the neighborhood. I wanted to be a bad guy. That's just the bottom line. I wanted to be a bad guy because bad guys were the good things back then. I went to Catholic school. So, I mean, I had a good education. My grandfather raised me well. I went to Catholic school, which was like, that's an institution well, we're all institutionalized if you don't realize it or not, because Catholic school was surely an institution. The nuns made sure of that, because I made sure they made sure that I got beaten with that yardstick many a day. And they told me that God was good and Jesus loved me. And I couldn't understand how they would beat me. How, if God is so good, why are you beating me? And you're a nun. But anyway, that was my experience. But I was institutionalized from a child. My home life was good. I knew about God. I heard about God. That was in my home. That was, you know, I wasn't ignorant to Jesus. I knew the story. I knew all about that. But I was drawn to the neighborhood. I was drawn to the streets because I wanted to meet the high. I wanted to meet the high, you know. Like my grandfather had a bar, they had a bar in the house in the basement. And as I wanted to get to know the high, I began to sample my grandfather's collection. You know, I would take sips of this and sips of that. And that gave me some courage. I liked the way it made me feel. It took me outside of me. So I guess it'd be true to say that for most of my life, I was trying to get outside of me. For most of my life, I was trying to get away from who I am. I did not want to be me. So I tried everything I could to get out of reality. Alcohol was the first thing, and I loved it. It made me feel good. It gave me courage. But of course, it led to other things. When I got in the streets, you know, whatever everybody was doing, I wanted to do. Marijuana, you know, all the drugs they were doing back then. It wasn't as bad as it is these days, but we were partying and we were out there. The gang war was going on and all that. So I grew up in that era. So, you know, you had to be tough and to cry and be sad, and that wasn't that wasn't the thing to do. That was vulnerability. But you know, I went to high school. All through school, I got good grades. You know, went to high school and got good grades and everything. But the high, I just had to get that high. I couldn't get away from that high. So I chased that high. I chased it, and I ended up getting I got in trouble here. You know, I was finding trouble in the streets, and the streets was finding trouble in me. I was just in trouble. So I made a decision after I graduated from high school to go into the military, which really changed my whole life, made a man out of me. But even in there, I found trouble. I don't know what it is with me in trouble, but they just can't get it off my back then. It was like a monkey on my back. And I went to the military, and for the first time, I was on my own. You know, on my own. And anything I wanted to do was right at my fingertips. Because when you go on a military base, they tell you, when you get to the base, they tell you before you go on leave or liberty, they say, don't go here and don't go there. And as soon as the gates open, that's where everybody went, where we weren't supposed to go. And that's what the high was, and everything else that we weren't supposed to do. But that led to more drinking and new drugs. I traveled around the world, finding about new drugs and new highs. You know, it became a vicious cycle. You know, it became a vicious cycle. And, you know, in the military, alcohol is truly acceptable. You know, I mean, there were field operations where they would bring cases of beer out. I mean, truckloads of beer. they made sure we had enough to drink. So the military encouraged the drinking. And like I said, as long as I drank, it kept me away from me. And me alone was in bad company. Me alone was in very bad company. And, you know, I went to the military and things, I had some experiences in there. You know, some people would say that they did drugs because their mother beat them or their father beat them. I'm going to tell you the truth. I did drugs because I wanted to get high. I'm not going to blame nobody. There were some things that made happen in my life that contributed to some of my behaviors. But I wanted to get high. I did not want to be me. I wanted to get away from me. That was my goal. But after I got out the military, you know, cocaine was prominent on the streets. A lot of people don't want to get to the nitty gritty, but I'm going to tell you, I started smoking cocaine. And that's what really got a hold of me, smoking cocaine. When I first started, it was a thing for the elite. You know, it was a classy thing to get cocaine. But it turned into a $5 drug. And I'm going to tell you, it took me places that I would never want to go again. I became spiritually bankrupt. I became very depressed. Mental health issues. Whatever I had it 10 times that. It wasn't a happy ride. I found myself in the darkness. And I had the mindset that I can't. That stuck with me. I felt like God had forgotten about me, and I was being chastised. That's what I felt like. I was being chastised. And when you're getting chastised, there's some pain involved. And I was in a lot of pain, a lot of mental, emotional, spiritual, and some physical pain. I was doing a slow suicide. I was on a mission to kill myself because, to tell you the truth, I didn't even want to live. There were many nights I went to sleep that I wished I wouldn't wake up. But you know what happened? One thing I always had, I had hope. I had some hope, and I started hoping that I would get something would be different in my life. That I can't. It's not true. That I know I can, and then, you know, I ended up in jail. I was in jail a couple times. Wasn't a career criminal, but I was in jail a couple times. And each time I was behind bars, I read a lot of books. See, some folk get arrested, but I got rescued. Because when I was incarcerated behind the bars, I began to think. And I began to hear God talking to me. And what happened was I had got cancer. I was real sick. I was in the hospital for a month. And, you know, between those periods, I had a lot of clean time. I went to Narcotics Anonymous. I went to AA. I went to all the meetings, 12-step meetings, experience. I sponsored people. People sponsored me. I went through the program, and the program was good. I'm not talking against the program. The program works. It works if you work it. But let me tell you something. It was something about me that just went beyond that. And that was because God was calling me to a higher calling, to another room, to other rooms to go to. So what happened was cancer was a pivotal point in my life. For the first time, really, I really heard God speaking to me. And not only that, I was listening to God talking to me. Just before I got sick, I started school because I started to have some hope. And what happened was I got sick with this cancer. But after I got out of the hospital, I wasn't ready to just resume my studies. But what happened was eventually I did go back to school. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something. Through that time in my life, I began to find myself. I began to find out that, you know, I had a purpose. I began to find out that God had something in store for me. Yes. See, what was fun was no longer fun anymore. See, the high was now a low. So I got tired of chasing the high. I began to be okay with me. Because like I said before, me alone was in bad company. I found a peace of mind. I found some joy. And like I said, I went to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I went to recovery groups and everything. And I would see people that were happy and they had peace. They appeared to anyway. And I wanted what they had. So I asked God, when am I going to get mine? Me. But I realized it wasn't until I forgot about me that I began to get better. It wasn't until I began to be concerned about other people, I began to see the light. I began to serve God. Not only serve him, but serve him in spirit and truth. And then when I was appointed the job of being the outreach coordinator of my church, you know, we had a food cupboard, and we would get some boxes delivered once a month, and we would give out the food once a month. But that food cupboard is going from a U-Haul truck delivering some boxes to we got tractor trailers dropping off skids of food now. We are one of the designated sites in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Baptist Church. As a matter of fact, when I get off this line, I'm going to give out some food today, 55th and Haverford. But in the midst of my journey going through all that stuff, like I said in the beginning, truth be told, I'm now a different person. I'm not the person I was before. I no longer look over my shoulder. Nobody's looking for me, but doing nothing to them. Of course, the devil is still busy. But I thank God that I was able to see the light and go from the mindset of I can't to I can. Not only that I can, I will. Not only I will, I am doing.
Benjamin, let me jump in here and ask a couple of questions for you. There was a person who said they know who you are, and they said that they want to let you know that your story has inspired them and given them hope. And they also added that you are a man of integrity. So I just wanted to add to, looking back at everything that you went through, what would you do different?
You know, I always ask myself that question. Mm-hmm. I would have went to college right out of high school. That's what I would have done. I'd have been a lawyer. That was my destiny. I thought was to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. That was what I wanted to do. What I would have done different, when I was in the military, I wouldn't have got in trouble. And I would have made a career out of the military. But had I done that, I might have been killed in the war because I was already involved in that, you know, and made it through. And, you know, who's to say you go back and don't make it back? So God had another plan for me. What I woulda, coulda, and shoulda. I don't even deal with that anymore. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, because they never come through for you anyway. They hang out with what if and maybe so.
That's great. And you talk about, you know, college. I know 50 Cent actually has a series on ABC now about a man who was incarcerated, came out, and while he was in prison, he actually studied to be a lawyer. And it seems like it's the same story. You know, I didn't really watch the show, but the storyline seems similar to you, you know, and you had education. You talked about, you know, growing up in South Philadelphia. You talked about, you know, your missions that you're doing now, but you also talked about you just always wanted to be with the bad guys, right? And being with those guys, and we have someone on that's, you know, a young male right now, if someone's on our Truth Be Told session, what can you tell them, you know, how to stray away from the streets and go back to their books and letting them know that the books is not a bad thing at all? You know, so how would you, you know, inspire someone to stay focused on going to school, coming out, and going to college?
Listen, first of all, I'd like to say, you know, time is running out. Time is short. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. While you're young and you have opportunities to go to school and build yourself up, do that. Take advantage of that. And as far as being with the bad guys, let me tell you something. I sought to be with the bad guys, but I wasn't a bad guy. Inside of me was a good guy.
Yes.
So listen to that good guy in you that says, go the other way.
Thank you for that. So one other question, what would you say to someone struggling with substance abuse and mental health issues to encourage them to change?
You know, I help people. I talk to people all the time with mental health and substance abuse issues. And the bottom line is, you know, at the end of the day, is what do you really want to do? You know, it comes to a point in your life when you have to surrender. You either going to surrender to what's good, or you going to surrender to what's bad. You know, and the bottom line, what do you really want to do? I mean, you know, if you on crack and you may have a couple of dollars and you want to travel, but you still have your problem with you. So it's not until you fix that problem that you can really go and enjoy those things that you really want to do.
That's a good point. And it always circles back to loving yourself, right?
What did you say?
I said it always circles back to loving yourself first.
Yes. You know, listen, for so long, I didn't like, I thought I was the ugliest person.
Oh.
I didn't like me. But that was one good person. And, you know, and God has blessed me. And I know my worth now. You know, I would say I knew who I am, but I ain't there yet. Because I'm still becoming who I'm going to be. But I know who I am. I'm a man of God who seeks God. I'm not an angel, but I'm faithful in my endeavors with God and my ministries that we do, because we serve in spirit and truth.
Absolutely. So Reverend Benjamin, you know, your story is very touching and inspiring. How can our attendees follow you or email you? Let them know how they can reach out or be a part of your food mission.
You know, okay, my email address, it tells my story. My email address is RevBen, I'm a Reverend, my name is Ben, .outreach, I do outreach, @outlook.com. I do look out. So that's my email, revben.outreach@outlook.com. Okay. Also, I have a Voice and Vision, Ben Nelson Voice and Vision. I only know that one, so don't use that one. But my church is Philadelphia Baptist Church in West Philadelphia, right on the corner of 55th and Haverford. That little church with the big heart, right on the corner. And we're there on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, giving out an abundance of food. Like I said, as soon as I get off of this, I'm running over to the church to start getting this food together and handing it out to the community. That's how you can reach me. And I'm Facebook, I'm Benjamin Nelson on Facebook.
And if you can leave with one quote or inspirational, you know, statement, you know, shout it out. And he's also, I want to pay, you know, a great congratulations and thank you to Reverend Benjamin Nelson, because he came up with our conference theme this year. So, you know, get up off of that thing. So he is so, you know, your truth that we told is very touching, is very inspiring, is actually awesome. And I feel like you're a visionist, because you come up with a lot of these themes, and even truth be told, you know, when you come up with these statement pieces, that's big, you know, that's very huge, and, you know, it's honorable. So thank you. And we still have a lot to hear about who you are and your journey and what's next. So, you know, these webinar series to the audience today, they're going to keep happening. So sign up. You know, if you have a story that should be told, let us know. Email Valerie or one of our staff at Voice and Vision, and let us know, you know, how you would like to be a part of our whole journey in our webinar series. And also, again, if you have a question for Reverend Benjamin Nelson, you can add it right now in our Q&A before he, you know, goes to his food mission. We will definitely love to hear from you. If you have a question for him, let us know. And again, Reverend Benjamin, leave us with something, one quote or a statement that everyone can feel inspired by today.
What I would like to say is, I would like for us to all realize that we can. Because if we think we can't, then we won't. Yes, we can. Like Obama said, yes, we can. And I would like to say, yeah, you know what? Get up off of that thing. Whatever that thing is holding you back from your destiny. Mm-hmm. Get up off of that thing. And truth be told, eyes have not seen, the ears have not heard what God will do for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You heard it from Reverend Benjamin Nelson, and thank you so much, Reverend.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Raymond Wurtz. He's a community advocate, and he is joining us today with Voice and Vision's Truth Be Told series. Hi, Raymond.
How you doing?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm blessed.
That's a great thing. Me too. Thank you. So we're going to jump in. We had heard from some amazing panelists today, and you know, they always say save the best for last. So I'm happy to have you on, especially Valerie and all of the Voice and Vision staff and team members. So Raymond, tell the audience where you are and what are you up to, and you know, how was your childhood like?
Yes, I like to say I like to give thanks to the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. You know, as I was coming up, I was ordinary, just like the rest of the black men. I don't know what percentage it is that a black man don't have a father, was raised up by a father. But I came up, my mother did a good job, you know. She struggled. She worked hard, 2 or 3 jobs. I remember when I was a young man, I was about 7 years old. I used to sit there and wait for my mother to come home at night. And she would finally get to the door and she would come in. I would get the little pan bucket and run to the sink and get some warm water with Epsom sauce in it. And I would take her shoes off and prop her up in a chair and put her feet in the water, let them soak. You know, I knew she had tried to do everything she can for us. She was a wonderful mother, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't curse. I would always go to her door in the bedroom. I would always see her on her knees just praying, hollering Jesus' name out. And I didn't particularly know the meaning of God particularly, but I know my mother used to make us go to church every Sunday. We had to put on our little pants, our little bow ties, our little shirts, you know. I was a choir boy. You know, I had to do all them things, you know. So sometimes, to be honest with you, I didn't want Sunday to get there all the time. I was like, oh, I'd rather be outside playing, you know. Easter time, the other kids had on little sweatsuits and stuff. We had to wear little suits. You know, it was a big difference. And as I got older, I started hanging around the playground, which we call Lanier Playground. It was basically 99% white. So really, I was basically one of the only blacks could hang over there. I remember I used to go to their houses and stuff, eat dinner. But the thing was, when I used to go to their houses, I used to feel some type of way because it was so beautiful inside. You know, big houses. I sit there and eat dinner, you know. And I kind of got caught up in South Philly with everything, but I always knew that the other kids around the neighborhood kind of felt some type of way with me because the way I was hanging out with them. So, you know, but I let my fears and I let my time get in the way, and I decided like I was at the wrong place, but I really wasn't, because we all alike. And, you know, that's what's wrong with the world today. You know, we always trying to separate each other. But we find out today that I love that black and white youth is getting along much better and starting to love each other, because the hatred that they has been taught by their parents has been detrimental to each and every one of us. So now that we come to that end, I just see so much more love, and I just pray on it that it could all come together, that people always going to have their ways, and people always going to keep their kids saying that make us feel like we less than them. So, you know, as I came up, I realized I never forget it. I was 10 years old, and I always used to take and play sports by myself. I used to take the ball and throw it against the wall and catch it and stuff. That's how I learned how to play ball, because I didn't have a father, and my mother was always working, and she always did her best. I remember when I was going to school, my little white sneakers, I always appreciated how my mother took a little money. I used to bathroom before she came home. I used to have a toothbrush, and I used to scrub my sneakers because I wanted them to be pure white. I always kept them. That was my pride and joy, my sneakers. And I always take my shoestrings and wash them and make them. And people used to say, Dad, you keep your sneakers so white, because I appreciated what my mother did for me. I appreciate the struggle that my mother went. I appreciate, I never had a father. I didn't never see my father. So, it's just little things that make you appreciate. And during that time, I remember this guy, he had a baseball team. It was basically 99% of white. And I went to him, I said, this your team? He said, yes. I said, I'd like to try out. He said, can you play? I said, I think I probably could play all positions. So he says, get out in the field. I'll never forget, I went out in the field. He hit the ball. I went back and caught it and threw the ball all the way from center field to the catcher. They was like excited. They was like, wow. Before you know it, I was playing baseball in the organized baseball team. And from there on, I loved sports. I did a lot of sports. And then all of a sudden, I know when I became, I say about 17 years old, I started changing my life. I started hanging around with guys, and before you know it, I took my first drink. And this what told me that drinking wasn't good for me, because I threw up. I was sick. So it rejected. I knew that this wasn't for me, but I still try to continue on to do that. And it did it again. But for me to be in the clique and everything, I knew that I had to do certain things. I knew that I had to try. And so from there, it went to another thing. And before you know it, that time came, I started doing stuff, crimes and all that. And I remember my crime that I did. I got involved, and I didn't want to go to jail. My mom and them got me out on bail. So it was like an experience. Oh, I got out on bail. I could do something else. I won't stay in there. So it continued. So about the third time I got out on bail, I knew this time that it was more serious. I knew that this might be a time that I will go away. So what I did.
It seems like, and I want to ask, is for growing up as a young male, is it pressure to be following specific groups? Like let's say you're going to school, you talk about going to school, you're a baseball player, you're out there, you're seeing people in the corners, but you got to walk through these crowds.
Yes. Pressure
from the young men that are on a corner to say, what are you doing? And does it make you feel some type of way? Or like, what is that truth to be told in terms of walking through a specific group, or back in the day, we'll call them gangs. And then it's like, you're the preppy guy, you should be on this side. What is that?
Yes, Ebony, it is a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. Because, back then you was either a nerd, mm-hmm. Or either you want to be a little gangster, and a lot of us make a decision because we feel lonely, we feel rejected. So we want to be in the crowd and be known, yeah, Ray this, Ray's tough, Ray's this. But it's really not about that. It's about if you be a nerd, that's the best thing to be. Be a nerd. And that's where you make progress. But, I chose the other lifestyle. And I became involved in stealing, robbing, just doing the things, and, you know, and then getting involved in drugs and doing things that, I had a lot of pain inside of me, and I had a lot of suffering inside of me because I came from one parent. My mom always had to get out there, and so I decided like I could do things for myself. And when I decided that, everything went downhill because I just didn't know nothing else. I was enjoying the money. I was enjoying like just being high, and a lot of times I'd be alone by myself, just spaced out, but I remember when I used to started cocaine. I would go to the houses and do cocaine, and I would leave the house. I have on $300-$400 shoes. Sharp, I'd be sharp. But guess what? I would sell my shoes, my sweater, everything. I would go through alleys ducking because I didn't want people to see me. I was ashamed to go home. I would find an empty house, curled up in the corner like a ball, sleeping. I mean, it was a painful experience and suffering I was doing. And then I didn't want that no more. I decided I didn't want that no more. I wanted help. So when I got help, I said, this is it. All that suffering and pain, I rehabilitated myself, but only way I did that, I called out to Jesus. Wow. I said, I surrender. I can't do this no more. It's too painful. I said, God, help me.
And that was my next question. When did you turn to Christ? And how was your spiritual journey leading to Christ?
I turned to Christ back in the 80s.
Okay.
I turned to Christ back in the 80s. I started going to Narcotics Anonymous, AA. I started speaking all over. The Veteran Hospital, Fairmount Institute. I was going from hospital to hospital speaking, telling my story and my life story. And I'm pretty sure that I helped a lot of people through God because God blessed me to help them. I couldn't do it without him. So
when you turned to Christ, Raymond, did you have that Khali moment when you were walking and you're mentoring and you're thinking people are watching you? Did you have that type of moment as well?
Yes. Wow. It was an experience when I spoke to people and everything about it in the programs. It lift, a lot of people don't understand, but it lifts your spirit because you know that you gave all you can and you said all you can for people to lift their spirit. And you know what? I don't take the credit. I'm pretty sure that I probably saved a lot of people, but I saved a lot of people because through God, because he leads me with everything. Before I even speak, I ask him anything that I do, make sure it's confessed through his words, not mine. And, so it's a good experience, but you know what? I dealt with a lot of kids. I did a lot of ministry. I had a little baseball team. I did boxing team. I've been on TV working corners. I ministry to, I had a youth boxing team called the Warriors Boxing Team. I took them and took them to Chicago, Kansas City, Atlanta. And, and it hurts right now because what happened, some of them passed, after I stopped doing it. And sometimes I hold myself counter for that but I had to leave on the strength of, I didn't want to get involved in corrupted stuff anymore. So I didn't want to take no corrupted money because I love the kids and I love the pro boxers. And I seen how things happen with them because with no education, they couldn't even read the contracts and stuff. So it was things like, and so right now it's just, I sit still sometime And I know that people need me out there. And, you know, this is what God wanted me to do, the ministry to youth. I even had a ministry praise dance and girls group. I just goes through it sometime because two of the young men, they was on motorcycles. One got killed a month apart. And they always respect me, always had people stay at my house that was homeless, the young men, and I would teach them. Before I even ran the boxing team, you had to go upstairs and do your homework first before you could come down and train. So I always had that, make sure they get a good education first. So it was like the feeling I can't even explain, because it just made you feel like you was doing God's work. You was helping somebody to understand the principles of life. You was helping somebody to see the purpose of life. You was helping somebody to be happy, to be honest in thoughts and deeds and action. These things that applied to them made me feel good, because you could see the smile on their face. You could see the effort that they was doing before they came in the gym, because they came in with their pants down, showing their underwear and stuff. Then all of a sudden you see them, they pull up the pants to the waist side, presentable. That's the only way I would have it. And very respectful. All that cursing would leave. You know, you would have to talk properly, you know, if you wanted to. That I will introduce them to pro boxers that was maybe a champion and let them speak to them. And, you know, this is the kind of stuff. And they just never want to leave me. Everybody called me Uncle Ray. They just all came around. And, you know, I used to come here and feed them. I always, my wife always had a table, and she just would feed everybody, all the kids, and they would enjoy it. And they would enjoy it. And then they would leave and go home, which half of them didn't want to go home, because, you know, I guess the environment, you know, the things. But I would talk to their parents, and their parents would respect me, and they would appreciate the things that I done for their sons, and you know, so forth and so forth. But that is a life that really, like, kind of bothered me, because I tells her, I said, I really want to start back. I really want to start back, focus on children, because they need me. And that's what God blessed me to do. And that's why you say I'm a community person. I'm the block captain. I go around community. I like to talk with the adults, the guys that hang on corners. I just always had a gift, Ebony, always had a gift about communication. Always had a gift about showing love. I'm a very humble person, you know, so I just want to see the humbleness that's in me, to see that when you do be incarcerated and you was in jail, that don't mean you come out. You have to be angry. You have to show some toughness. You could be just as humble, and they could see it in your eyes. They could see it in your face, you know. I mean, I just really think when I go out in the street, people always respect me. I just think I shine so much, and that's through God. I shine, you know, and I love it. I love it.
I feel like you're a true champion at heart, you know, and that's an amazing story. We have someone made a comment, you know, wow, you know, they stated, wow, that's truly a true mentorship, you know, not wanting to take money that will destroy others, you know, and that's just a champion within yourself. So, you know, kudos to you, your programming for children, youth in the community. And I think they still need that, you know. So if this platform for you to tell your story can inspire you to get back out there and do your work, you know, bless you, you know, and I think that's the missions that should be told as well. So, you know, if you're gifted, you know, your ability to go out here and make change is honorable. So, you know, kudos to you. And so where are you now? So you talked about, you know, not having a programs right now, but what are you doing now? Are you
well, what I'm doing now, I was blessed when I came home from jail. Khali, I remember Khali just explaining that he explained his story, and mine was the same way. I came home, got a hospital job, environmental service, and I didn't think I was going to get it because of my record. But I never forget the sister. He was the second person in charge of environment. I told him the truth. You know, I just came out and said, listen, I just came home from jail. I know I probably. He called me in 2 days. So he said, you got the job. I said, wow, what a blessing. I said, God is so good. I got the job. 2 years later, my father-in-law said, how would you like to work for Philadelphia Housing Authority? I said, of course. That was like $5, $6 more an hour. I said, of course. Before you know it, I was in the rehab crew where we go around and rehab the houses, the floors, the walls, everything, do that kind of work. So I retired from there. And then I worked at this company called True Value on the side. I was driving one of the big trucks, delivering wires and pipes and stuff to construction sites. So, you know, my life became much better. You know, the doors start opening and, you know, things start happening. And, you know, I've been blessed. And I always try to give back to people that don't have, you know. My goal is now, Ebony, is to go downtown and I want to get, I looked it up. I want to get a big box of gloves, hats and socks and stuff, and just walk around and give it to the homeless people, you know.
I'm sure Khali, Reverend Raymond, Valerie, myself, and more would love to help you, you know.
Yes, I just want to see the smiles on their faces and, you know, let them know that they are loved because they are loved, you know. And some of us, like, we think when we out there like that, like I experienced, we think like we just alone all by ourselves. But you got to let them know God loves you and I'm here and he sent me here. He sent me here to do this for you. And, you know, everything that goes through me, the Lord goes through me. And that's what I represent.
Thank you.
And I just want to read one little thing, if I can.
Sure.
Okay. It's something, you know, something simple and basic. It said, who am I, God? Then it said, and then I said, I am original, but in you, I am extraordinary. You have given life a purpose. Would you show me that purpose more and more? Would you point me to people you want me to help, pray for, talk to, use me? Father, give me the strength and a voice and vision to make a difference. I want people to see how big you are. I want people to see that with you, anything is possible. I love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, we pray.
Thank you. I have one more question. The impact of family. You know, you grew up with your beautiful mom and how, you know, you honor your mother. You know, how's your wife? You spoke about your wife. How has your wife been a big part of your family and your current, you know, just your whole life right now?
Oh, through trials and stipulation, all the bad stuff that I went through, she hung in there. You know how the saying goes, Ebony, they say usually sometime a man marry a woman like your mom. So I could say that she has a lot of characteristics of my mom. She's sweet, giving. She's always giving, you know. But sometimes, you know, people have the tendency when you're a giving person, when you're a loving person, they think that you're weak. They try to take advantage of you. But you know what? You can't let that stop you from being humble and grateful, because we are going to go through that manifestation, because that's how people are. They're always looking for to take advantage of somebody. But we have to do God's will, you know, and that's the most important thing that keeps me going. I can't worry about the distraction. I can't worry about how people think about me. Long as I continue to do God's work, I know that I'm going to be successful, because that's the bottom line. You know, you will see this at the end, and I will be rewarded, hopefully.
I would like to also add, that times have changed definitely, right?
Yeah.
Times have changed. And one of the things about social media is that, we still have a lot of work to do on the streets, meaning there's a lot of people still in the corners and, young guys are being influenced. But I also see a positive side, on social media with families, Black and African American. A lot of people are getting married now. A lot of people are having children. They're showing family, So what's your take on that, like in terms of social media, Facebook? You're starting to see more stories, and that's kind of a good side. And it's also a curse.
Yes, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up about social media and Facebook and stuff. If you go on my page, everything is so positive. I try to lift people's spirits. Where basically on my page is basically about God, Lord sayings, and people be inspired by it because they said, "Oh, thank you, I needed that this morning." Oh, that's yes, I was suffering a little bit or going through this, but now you lift my spirit. So it makes you motivated. It just makes you more going and going and going. And this is the kind of stuff that I like to do because God set example for me to do, because, Ebony, I was placed in the dungeon one time when I was in jail. I was placed in the dungeon, and it was like a dark tunnel. You didn't see no light. And I used to sit in the corner, balled up like a ball. I used to sit in the corner instead of just laying on that brick bed. I used to sit in the corner and just meditate. And I used to go to places where I never been. All I used to see when I used to go to them places, meditate, I seen all white, so beautiful. The white God, everything was so beautiful. And I used to be there, and I used to say, "Where's this place at?" And then you could hear little voices. "You're not alone." Mm-hmm. And it was like, and that's what got me through there. And it was, I didn't know day from night. The only reason I knew day from night when they gave me that messed up coffee in the morning, nasty coffee, and I knew it was morning. I barely ate hardly because the food was awful. Wow. But I made it through the grace of God. I made it through. And that experience was, I look at it now, it was a beautiful experience for me because it made me stronger. As a Black man, it made me strong. It made me want to be motivated to get out here and don't want the other kids to go through what I went through. My Black little children, my Black little brothers, even the Black sisters, because, they start to do things that they don't need to do. So, it motivated me. And it was that's why I say it's not an awful experience. It was a beautiful experience because the things that you go through, sometimes you ask a person, where would you be at if you had an opportunity? I guess I would be at the same thing because that's the way God wanted my life to go through. So now I do see through that tunnel, I do see a light. And it is a light. It's shining. It's shining bright. And I love it. I don't have to worry about all that, still wearing the fancy clothes no more. I mean, I dress nice, but I don't have to worry about wearing $1,500 shoes and $500 belts and this and that. You can look good. You can shine. You can look good just with a $25 shirt on. Yeah,
Teach your environment, like you said, pull up those pants. Don't leave the person at the door.
Yeah.
A clean white shirt. This is how you wash. Just teaching them. We heard it first, everyone, from Raymond Wurtz. Thank you so much.
And
I also want to thank you so much for your story. I do have a statement from an attendee. She just wanted to add, the entire webinar is a true blessing to hear men discuss their personal stories to bless others with what they are doing in their communities. I'm very thankful for you all, and thank you for sharing.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you. You heard it again from Mr. Raymond Wurtz. And where can everyone find you on Facebook or your email, and how they can help with your, socks and shirt drive?
Yeah, Raymond Wurtz on Facebook, right? And my email is wertsinc06@aol.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to
thank y'all for blessing me and giving me the opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raymond, Reverend Ben, Khali, Valerie, and all the attendees. Thank you for all your stories, your contribution, your participation. It's all inspiring. I also would like to let everyone know we have a help and hope guide. There's a book that we have on our website. Please visit our website at www.voiceenvisioninc.org to learn more. We have so many things going on for the new year, and we have other stories, the Help and Hope Guide, stories of transformation, recovery, stories of things that you heard today, and inspiration. So please visit our website. Please support our book. Please support stories. And again, if you too have a story that you would love your truth to be told, please email us, or you can even email me at ebony@voiceenvisioninc.org. And we definitely would love to hear more from you. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Voice and Vision. Thank you, Sherry Schiffman, and all for being a part of this wonderful webinar series. And we look forward to seeing more of these in 2021. And Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Bye-bye.